I hope you're all well. Welcome to Franchising Brand Stories. Now, I hope you've all had a good week in franchising. Now, franchising brand stories, what's it all about? We always like to start with letting you know what it's all about. So, franchising brand stories is where we get to hear the stories behind the brands. You know, we're going to interview some wonderful people. Today is no exception. And we're going to get to sort of get behind those brands, understand how they were created and the stories behind those, because it's really important when you're making a decision and when you're looking at a brand. So that is the premise of the show. Timescale today is somewhere around 50 minutes or thereabouts. It's a LinkedIn Live, so we're going to be very keen for people to get involved where they can, ask any questions. It is divided, roughly speaking, into 3 chapters. So the first chapter is where we're at now, and then we go back in time and we go right back to the beginning. That part, that's the middle 8, the sort of the main section of the show. And that's the part really that, we would love to get your comments and thoughts or questions. And we'll bring them up on the screen and we can have a good chat about them. So please comment where you can. Really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So before I introduce the wonderful Sam, I'd like to read a little bit about Sam's business. So Sam's Angels. I was going to do the whole Charlie's Angels music there, but discover how Samantha Acton set up a thriving domestic cleaning and home help business from a home in Bournemouth in 2002 to secure a better work-life balance, which is a really important thing, I think, to discuss for herself, and now through the power of franchising has attracted many like-minded women from all walks of life to a network that not only improves their own families' lives, but those of their local communities too. So, Sam, I'd like to start with chapter 1. What is Domestic Angels and where are you at now?
Well, ultimately, it's helping people in their homes. So, a cleaning service or an inging service, because inging covers an awful lot of things, doesn't it? Cleaning, ironing, housekeeping, spring cleaning, you name it, we do it. So, ultimately, that's what it does in its simplest form, but it actually does much more than that. So, Domestic Angels is a well established business. You refer to the fact that the work-life balance element to it, and that's why I started it. But it's also why the franchisees get involved, so that they've got that flexibility and control over their time, lives and money. But it's also why the angels come to us for employment as well, so that they can have that control, because we're able to provide the flexible work that they want. We understand they need to get to the school gates. We understand that they need to pick up the bread and the milk on the way back to the school gates, because that's much easier than screaming kids afterwards. And also, it's about the flexibility and freedom that the clients get, because loads of our clients are families who are working hard, and they get the control of their time and life as well by having help in the home. So it's really symbiotic in the way it operates, the bigger picture. So in its very basic form, we deliver help in the home. A bigger picture, it's about helping an awful lot of other people for different reasons.
Oh, that's great. What a lovely introduction to the brand. Thank you so much, Sam. Before we... oh, what was that?
Bells. Should
That's
have
very,
unplugged it, but not to worry, it's being dealt with. Apology, buddy.
it's very good, you see. These things prove it's live, and it's the wonderful part about it being live. No problem with doorbells, dogs, cats, all these sorts of things. So they're all part of everybody's story, because you know what, in franchising and in any business, you never know what you're going to expect. So sometimes a doorbell rings.
It does, and we like that. It's always an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yes. Who could be at the door?
Exciting.
Anyway, before we move on to the main part part of things today. I just want to recognise a few people who have joined us here early today. We've got the lovely and the ever wise Simon Wise. Great to have you here, Simon. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts and having your questions. We've got the lovely Nick Plevin here, a lovely chap and sponsor of my other show. So fantastic to have you here today, Nick. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. We've got Anne-Marie Martin, former guest on the show, and we all heard all about her brand story as well. So great to have you here. And we got a LinkedIn user, but I'm not sure who that is. So enlighten us. I'd also like to say, in case you have just joined us today, we are talking to Samantha Acton from Domestic Angels, and we're hearing all about her brand story. And we're just about to move into sort of the main section of today's episode and find out, the history and the characters and the story, as it started and where it's going. And this is the part that I really encourage everybody, if they've got a question, come in at this point, ask that question. We're bringing it up on the screen and, we'll see where it goes. So if you also, I want to say, if you're enjoying this episode, please join us next week, next Thursday, 5:15, same time. Now, I'm going to keep you in suspense about this, right? And all I'm going to say is it's easy like Thursday evening. Okay, now that's a little clue, but I'm not going to go any further than that. Anyway, fantastic. Oh, look, we've got Julie Waits here as well. Great to have you here. So we're going to get now to chapter 2, the main part of the show. And I'd like to take you back in time now. It all started, you said, there in 2002. So Sam, where did it all begin? Let us know that story of the beginning of Domestic Angels.
Okay, round a friend's house with a couple of bottles of wine, because that's where all good business plans start. Don't think about it too much, get on with it. Going back a bit before that, I was working in corporate, and I had gone back to work after maternity leave, and it was hell. It was actually, absolute living hell. I was based in Southampton on the Isle of Man. It's not great when you've got a baby in nursery. It's not happening. I eventually managed to make myself redundant in the spring of 2002, early 2002. And from there, Domestic Angels was born through the bottle of wine with my friend, who said, right, come on, you need to come and have a chat. And she said she needed help in her home because big house, running big business, 3 kids. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I'll do that. And a couple of weeks later, on the 11th of April, 2002, I was at her factory borrowing her photocopier because I didn't have any of those kinds of things at home at that point in time. And my phone rang, and it was a response to my first advert for a member of staff, and it was Tina. And Tina became our first cleaner. That's like, it's true. And she stayed with us for
Tina the cleaner.
Tina the cleaner. She stayed with me for about 8-9 years, I think it was. And so Domestic Angels was born that way. There's not a lot of thinking about it. It was very much instinctive, right? Okay, let's do this. And definitely for the first 5 years, I burnt my fingers all over the place with learning how to recruit, employ, you name it. I learnt it. So yeah, that's where Domestic Angels originates from.
That's fantastic. What a lovely story. And so many good ideas just sort of happen. I mean, sometimes over a bottle of wine, but they just sometimes happen. They're a little spark, aren't they? And they begin there. And my goodness, like you said, there's a lot of things you have to get over, the challenges and all of these things that happen. And that's part of what people buy into as a franchise, because they are buying into the fact that you have had to go through all of that.
And they don't need to.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, perfect. I just want to quickly recognize the fact that the LinkedIn user that was here is the wonderful Louise Harris. So it's fantastic to have you here as well. It's a lovely community and we all know one another. So it's great that everyone's here. I'm going to put up on screen a question here from Simon. This is a great question. Simon's put, why did you choose franchising to grow your business?
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question in my case, because I had grown a sizable business, and and I had a mentor join me who looked at all of the numbers. He's one of these MBA type, Cranfield type people who can crunch numbers that I didn't even know exist. And he said, "This is absolutely fine what you're doing, but your business is shaped like this, and if you keep growing, it's going to go blah, 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 blah. And at some point, there's going to be a massive disconnect between you and your customers. And the big win about your culture is the fact that you've got these relationships, human relationships." I said, "Well, okay, what do we do?" And he said, "I suggest you franchise the business." Well, the reaction was actually quite devastating for him, because I don't use the F word in front of me. I'd been to a franchise show in 2005, and I thought it was the most horrific experience ever. And, it's like you'll go walking into this room and you're surrounded by sharks. No, 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 no. Anyway, it took him 6 months, or me 6 months, to go through the thought process and come to terms with what he was suggesting, and understanding actually I could franchise in the spirit of my personality, our ethos, our culture, the way we do things. I did not need to conform with what I'd witnessed in 2005. I could do my own thing, and that really appealed to me. And magically, because that's what happened, my doorbell's rings. I had an email from Dr. Melina Bobeva, who lectures the MBA cohort at Bournemouth University, and asked if I would be the live client, Domestic Angels would be the live client. And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I've got a challenge for you. Looking at franchising, but it needs investigating." And the MBA cohort basically took a look at the franchise marketplace, the domestic cleaning marketplace, and Domestic Angels, and then put the whole lot together and presented the outputs after a calendar year, an educational year. And the outputs included a lot of risk registers, a lot of advice, but it made life very easy for me to work out what we needed to do to retain the magic, and what we needed to do to strengthen the magic, and also make the whole structure really strong and resilient for at least a good 10 years, if not more. And that is why I chose franchising, because I had this advice from a mentor. I gave it some thought after taking a packet of Mipiriton for my allergic reaction. And I had the MBA cohort, 15 amazing brains who stood by me and still stand by me today, which is incredible.
That's a fantastic answer to that question. I love the fact that you were talking about that strong foundation. I also like the fact that you were talking about the spirit of your personality coming through into your brand. You know, we've spoken a lot in the past about somebody's values turning into the culture of a business. You know, it's something that's often on a PowerPoint presentation, but when you talk to yourself, and when you talk to people who genuinely want that spirit of their personality to come through, then it's just something so important to hear. It's
Totally. And Domestic Angels has so much of that woven throughout, in the way that we operate, about empowering each other, empowering the franchisees to have the life that they seek, and also they're able to empower the angels to do the same, and the customers. I mean, I spoke about the busy families before who are customers, but there's also the elderly people who want to have time in their lives as well. And by us going in and helping them and supporting them and being surrogate relatives quite often, they are able to go out and do the fun things that gives them the socialization rather than being isolated. So there's a community service in there. There's a moral responsibility that we take really seriously in what we do. And you can imagine, because we go into people's homes, we do see all sorts of situations, and we don't ignore. We don't pretend things aren't happening. We don't interfere where it's not needed, but we are absolutely there to support people. You know, it's not unusual for us to come across domestic abuse. I have picked one mum up from the bottom of stairs. It's not unusual for us to sit with an elderly person who has no relatives while they pass away. You know, and we don't add cost to that. We don't add charge. We do it because we're humans, and it's what we would want other humans to do for us. So that's kind of a bit of a flavour and examples of how the spirit of my personality goes through about having responsibility by taking a care. And remember, we're really in the business of humans more than anything else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. And it's such a lovely story what you just said there as well. I think everyone can relate to it because everybody has got somebody they love, and they want to be looked after, and you're helping people in sort of three levels. You're helping your franchisees get a life that they want to get. You're helping the staff that look after and do all of those wonderful things that you said, and then you're helping those people at the sort of the final stage of that. So there's sort of three levels there, which is really wonderful. I'm going to just recognise, before we move on to another question, just recognise a few more people that are here. We've got the lovely Johnny Joseph, and he's from sunny South Africa. He's normally from Los Angeles, I think, so he must be going
Don't
back
talk to us about sunshine.
exactly. Look, let's I just want to put up this by Nick's put, I love the explanation of the pyramid getting broader and broader at the base. I like that as well. It really showed that you've got a strong foundation and you thought carefully about it before you took those extra steps.
And it's something that you have to revisit again as a franchisor, because you grow and accumulate franchisees, you grow your network, you grow the overall customer base, and yet again you're going to have that, and you have to think about how are you going to evolve that so that you still retain the connections, but also ensure those foundations are holding up and what more needs to be done, vision the future and bring the whole thing together.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was just looking at what Johnny put there.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I love that. I'm going to go to something that Anne-Marie has put here. Anne-Marie puts, love that, showing how finding the right franchisees who share that compassion is key. It brings me on to another point, and it's very similar that Simon's put here. What skills and experience do franchisees need to succeed in your business? So perhaps you could talk a little bit about the type of people that you're hoping to attract, or that you think would make great business partners in your brand.
Well, I think I'm going to talk about what Anne-Marie has added to the conversation here. It's not so much that I find the franchisees, they find me because they see somebody they identify with who has a moral framework and a set of values that they have as well. And they really want to have that in their work life, in their businesses. So it's a sharing those values and that moral framework is really vital to me for attracting those right franchisees. And honestly, the best ones, they find me and they tell me, this is what I want to do and this is why. And I haven't said a word to them, and they're just amazing. They really are amazing. So yeah, Anne-Marie is absolutely right. If you find the right people who've got the same values as you. In terms of what skills and experience do the franchisees need, I'm really looking for great communication skills and great organizational skills. Those are my two key things that I'm looking for, front, right and center. If they can do those things, we're going a long way. Customer service is also essential. So you put those things together, you've actually got the description of a mum, because mums have to be highly organized. They have to communicate clearly, otherwise the household doesn't work. And they give good customer service to the whole of their family to make it all work. So when you find a mum who's powerful in the way she runs her household, I probably want to talk to her.
That's great. I really liked what you said there about finding someone's why, and I think that that's really important. If you talk to a prospective franchisee and you really understand why they want to do it, and during the course of that conversation, I think that's where you find whether you're aligned in your values.
Yeah, exactly. And we even give an opportunity to those that haven't made it clear to come online or meet us face to face and do a presentation. Tell me what your why is. Why do you want to do this, and why Domestic Angels? It needs to come from them. It needs to come from their heart. I'm not here to sell a franchise. I'm not here to sell a business. I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm here to raise up and enable and empower other people to have their own businesses.
I love that about raising people up. You know, in any business, if you can surround yourself with people that you lift up, right, you're always going to be successful, because if you look after your people around you, then they thrive and you'll thrive. And it's so important.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the industry calls it a recruitment process, but that whole experience and building relationship as we go through the decision making process together is vital, because we need to know that we can actually work together, that we have a good connectivity, that we do have common denominators, that people joining are one of us. And my franchisees are heavily involved in that. At least 3 of them will interview and spend time with anybody who's joining. You know, we say, please have time with at least 3 of the franchisees online, ask them any question you like. And then they get what they want, and the franchisees are able to tell me whether they feel that this is a person who's one of us that they can work with, because the network all work together. They all talk and support each other and raise each other up. It doesn't matter what's going on in life, they're there for each other.
Yeah. I think that's really, really key and really relevant. You know, I was talking to someone fairly recently about the fact that being an entrepreneur is lonely, right? And you can be an entrepreneur within a franchise business, but it's not lonely, because you can soundboard off of other people, you can have round table events, you can be supported by your peers and by the franchisor. So I think it's really, really interesting and really important what you said there. We've sort of gone through this, I think, but Nick's put, how do you make sure the people you recruit share your values? Is it about spending time together, or is there a more rigid process?
Yeah, it's about spending time together. You know, have a coffee, have a chat, see what they've got to tell you, and get the franchisees involved, and they will soon tell me if I've got it wrong. And also, you'll know, are you really having a genuine chat with this person, or does it feel false? How does it feel? What is it they're saying? Are they telling you they care? Are they telling you they're really genuinely interested? Are they passionate about their future and owning their future? Yeah, so you can pick it up. It's about being there. It's not about going through a checklist so much. It's about, is there connectivity? Do I feel that we can really genuinely get along? Can I mentor that person?
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting and relevant there, because you've just got to know whether you can work together, haven't you? And that just comes in the natural, organic course of time sometimes. John's put, sorry if I missed this, but how many active franchisees do you have, and how do you ensure you are receiving complete and act royalties?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Good question, Johnny. I mean, start with the first part of that, perhaps.
Cool.
You know,
That's great.
how many franchisees have you got at the moment?
Okay, so they are management franchisees, and there are 8. So don't forget, we're relatively new in the marketplace, and we got decimated by pandemic, but that actually gave us a reason to strengthen and rethink and regroup.
Cool.
We are in massive expansion at the moment, and we will be making announcements very soon that will change that number to a bigger number. So watch this space, and I'll share it with you.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you very much for that. And thanks for that question, Johnny. I know Johnny is a franchise auditor, so we're very interested.
Well, hence the second part of his question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cough. I'm trying not
That's
to.
okay. No, that's all right. Shall we address the second part of his question?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so how do we ensure we're receiving complete and accurate royalties? Well, Johnny, we use a centralized system. So this came out of the analysis from the MBA cohort, who looked at the marketplace and saw that one of the things that was falling over in the franchise sector for increasing the amount of female participation was the continuing need for unnecessarily complicated financial transactions. So, for example, the franchisee does their business and then submits their numbers at the end of the month, say this is how much we made, and then an invoice comes back saying these are my royalties, and then that payment goes back. So it's going backwards and forwards. So basically the franchisee has to become a semi-professional accountant to be able to run their business. Now, women don't want to go into business to become semi-professional accountants. They want to go into business so that they've got freedom. So what we came up with is a centralized system where we built our own tech. The franchisees use the tech to make their bookings. It's called Halo. And it's basically a smart diary. And Halo talks to Xero. There's an API that we opened. And when a booking goes onto Halo, it feeds through to Xero and says, here's a booking for Harvey on Monday at 10 o'clock for 2 hours with Angel Katie. And Xero says, great, here's the invoice number. I've made the invoice. It's waiting for you when you're ready to send it. And then we send out the invoices centrally to all of the clients, and the customers pay into a centralized bank account. It's called a client monies account. It's exactly what a solicitor uses if you're buying a house or whatever legal transaction you have to make, where they hold your money, but it's not theirs, it's yours, but they're holding it. So it's nobody's money at that point. It's all collected centrally. So we can do all of the reconciliation for them. So they don't even have to learn to do that. It's all done. And they just get a spreadsheet at the end of the month that tells them what their invoice turnover was, what their cash turnover is, less their overheads, which we extract at source. So it's like PAYE, but it's not PAYE. So we extract their overheads for 365 for using Halo for the bookkeeping service. And then what their income is, give them the spreadsheet, give them their income. So they get 2 transactions in a month, which is the money for their wages for their angels, which they pay because they're the employers, and then what they've earned. So we've simplified it, but it means we know exactly what their royalties are. And the royalties are based on cash turnover, not invoice turnover, because that's exactly what's come in. If you put it on invoice, you've got to keep adjusting, makes it complicated, completely unnecessary. And let's face it, my success is based on their success. So if they're not making enough money or the money that they want to earn, and I'm not, a part of that is my fault. So I have to step up.
Definitely. I know that answers that question really well, actually, and really important stuff. Simon's got a question here that I think is really relevant and interesting to allow people to gain a sort of a picture of what a day looks like. What does a typical day look like in the life of a franchisee?
Okay, so they're very likely to check their communications, whether it be email or WhatsApp, very early in the morning, sort of like, right, let's just check, see what's happening, and then move away from it, do the school run or whatever it is they're doing. And then they get into their day. It should only be part-time, and sort of like between 9 and 2:30, and they probably do a little bit in the evening as well, here and there, just to keep it up. It depends on the size of the business they've grown, to be quite honest. You know, the bigger they get, the more they need to do, and if they haven't appointed a supervisor at that point, it tends to be quite consuming, so they need to appoint somebody and train them up. The content of their day will be about taking care of their staff, taking care of their customers, responding to new customer inquiries, a bit of marketing on social media. And generally, it's about communication and organisation and doing that admin on the Halo system.
Yeah, no, great. No, I think that sort of when people are trying to, when you're talking about somebody's why, that's you know, that drives them. But then they've got to think about, what does this look like? And you spoke a lot there about that work-life balance and trying to fit a business in around that. And that could be the why. You know, someone could have a corporate 9 till 5, or often much longer and hours than that. And it's great to think that you can have your own business and fit it around those busy lifestyles. So no, great questions, Simon. Thank you for that. I just wanted to briefly stop and say, if you have just joined us today, we are talking to the wonderful Samantha Acton from Domestic Angels, and we're hearing all about her brand story. There's a QR code on the screen right now that will take you back, so that you that's good. I like doing that. That's good. I use that.
I borrowed that from Anne-Marie.
Oh yes.
I can do it with jazz hands too, Anne-Marie.
Well, go on. Yeah. I'm going to have to do that now. But yes,
yeah.
Scan that and catch the full episode wherever you're watching this in the future. Do you know, a question I always love to ask, because this particular question always instills some interesting stories, and it's, you've been running your business for a long while. You must have met some wonderful characters, and more importantly than that, perhaps had some life-changing stories. Are there any that particularly stick in your mind? Some characters, some stories, some challenges you've overcome?
Well, there's quite a few, but I think our favourite, most recent one was at Christmas, when one of our franchisees, who's got a couple of territories, sent a message out, a WhatsApp, to each of her angels and thanked them for the year and every effort that they'd made. And one of her angels replied saying, "No, thanks is all mine. The gratitude is all mine. A year ago, I couldn't go out to work. I was too afraid. I didn't have the confidence. And now I am so happy to go to work. I talk to people and I found myself again. Thank you." That is powerful stuff.
It really is. It really is. And that's exactly, you can't get that from a brochure. You can't get that from that type of story, and how you as a franchisee can potentially change someone's life. And employing people and understanding people is about asking questions and staying curious and understanding their why as well. Because if you know what that is, you can do all sorts of things to make those people's lives better, and therefore make the work they do more fulfilling. And then it has knock-on effects that your staff turnover is lower, and you have happy people who want to work for you. So it's about understanding people as well, isn't it?
It totally is. Probably more so, though, in advance of that, is understanding yourself. Because I do watch franchisees rather go through the pain barrier now and again in terms of their experience with recruitment, because they don't believe enough just how good they are and what potential they've got. And when they just make that move across that bridge and go, actually, I do believe, and therefore I can, they then start recruiting incredibly well.
That belief, once that belief happens, it can be incredibly powerful, can't it? And if you can help someone find that belief, then really
exactly. And that goes hand in hand with the growth of their business as well. Once they believe, it really, really happens. And we work together with a transformational coach who specializes in imposter syndrome for exactly that reason. So we don't have a business coach or a mentor as such for the time being. We have a transformational coach, and it has made all the difference to every single one of us.
Yeah, it does. It does. I was just picking up on something Nick said there that you mentioned earlier on, and I think it's really important as well, that people talk to one another, during that process. You mentioned just then about a barrier, a pain barrier, and it reminds me a little bit about sort of the challenges that happen in business and the challenges that happen when you're a franchisee. How do you go about helping people over those sort of individual challenges that come up in their lives or in their business? Have you got any stories or things around that you'd like to talk about?
Okay, so we've got a number of things in place in Domestic Angels. We've got a WhatsApp group that's ticking away every day, where everybody shares and says, "Oh God, I've got both the kids off today. this is hell, or whatever it is. So you've got like a day-to-day support you can reach out. And because we've made sure they all know each other, they can just pick up the phone and saying, I'm messing up all my recruitment at the moment. Just give me 5 minutes. Let me straighten my head out. So we have that kind of basic stuff going on. Every Monday morning at 10:30, we get together on Zoom and we just check in on how their angels are, how their customers are, any questions for the group. So we use the power of the network to help everybody through and to grow. And then once a term, we get together to, well, do whatever we feel like, really. But there's always a deliberate aim of the meeting. So this week we did social media, because my lot are not keen on social media. But I have to say, it doesn't stop the phone from ringing. That just phone rings anyway, because people believe that they've seen Domestic Angels somewhere. They've seen our vans. We've never owned a van. It's just the power of PR. So yeah, they concentrated on social media, but it's not, you can't just give them the tools. You can give them the tools, but then they might not do it. So it's a bit like taking a horse to water, might not drink. So we dealt with the tools, and then our transformational coach, who is the wonderful Michaela Smith, then picked up, refocused on their targets, which are, they all share, they're all open about it, what their targets are, because they're all different for different reasons to match with their whys. And then, come on then, what are we going to do? What are the barriers to you actually taking action off the back of this new knowledge you've got today? And they make a commitment. And then we all talk about the commitment in the one-to-ones on a monthly basis, and then bring it all up again in the next termly meeting. So we've got a lot of structure around that to help each other. And yes, we do have some really special scenarios where people are having difficulties of all sorts. Life brings life, doesn't it? You know, life brings relatives that get poorly, that die, children who are struggling at schools, children who are struggling in life. There's nothing worse to upset a mum than a kid that's unhappy. Just all those different things life brings along, but where we talk about, we all share, and we're open about it to make sure that the support is there. So it's not just about being in business, not, you know, with each other. We're actually all doing life together as well.
Yes, absolutely. And life throws in all sorts of different curved balls all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A question I had, actually, we talk a lot here about wonderful mums and fantastic women that are in your business. Is your business suitable for everybody? And you know, would you say that also men and dads are suitable for the business?
Harvey, we should go for coffee. Let's talk about it. You know, come on. Yes, of course it is. But you know, when you're starting out in a business and growing a network like this, you're going to go for, oh, you look like me, you look like me, you look like me. It is the simplest solution, isn't it? Okay, so we have yet to find our chaps. They are out there. And yes, it is, especially if they're totally in touch with their feminine side in terms of being open and sharing and caring and being part of a network. And do you know what, chaps? You deserve the same as us. So please pick up the phone, send your emails. We want to hear from you. We want you to be part of our party too.
Absolutely, go chaps. And you know what, there's you know, plenty of characteristics that you mentioned that exist within all sorts of walks of life, and you know, it's important to be curious and be sensitive and to be caring. But I know lots of different people that certainly have those attributes, so it's fantastic to hear that. And we're starting to come towards the final part of this chapter, but a question I had was, do you, when you talk about someone's why, and when you're having those opening discussions, what does that process look like for a franchisee? So someone makes an inquiry, and how does that journey look?
If it's an email inquiry, or, you know, comes to me electronically, I'm going to pick up the phone pretty quickly and say hi. Or, well, actually, I send a message saying, got your message. When are you available for a quick chat? And we just want to have a quick chat to start with, because if we can't communicate, we're not going any further.
No.
So yeah, we need just to have that quick chat to start with, and then we have a half an hour on Zoom and chat and get to know each other. So that's where I'm really asking them, so why do you want to do this? Why are you interested? And why domestic angels? And people will tell you. So it's more about them. It's not about me. As I said before, I'm not selling this. It's about them and the journey that they're on. My job is to caretake that journey, because actually it doesn't matter so much whether they decide to become a franchisee, join the network, or stay running alongside domestic angels or go somewhere else. My responsibility is to make sure that they have a good experience and build their confidence, lift them up for wherever they go next, whether it's with us or with other people. So, you know, that I take that very seriously and make sure I take care of people. And consequently, we do have an awful lot of domestic angels friends who aren't quite ready for us or may never be, yet they support us fully. They are wonderful. They're like our extra set of cheerleaders, and they're also our postmen because they tell other people about us. So that's a really, really healthy situation.
Definitely, really very powerful as well. I think I'm going to maybe end, but we'll see, on a question that's about growth and exit strategies. You know, we often talk about the relationship beginning, but do you talk during those early stages as to where it's going to go and at what point that might end and at what might happen at that point? Or do you take it a day at a time?
No. I never shy away from it, but I don't go, right, let's make an exit plan. That's just like, I'm trying to get rid of you. You've only just started.
That's a good point.
Maybe not. But I probably take a slightly different tack to other franchisors. You know, when they make their investment to get their business in a box, yeah, and come on board, they would like a return on their investment in due course. So we never talk about this whole when do I get my money back? Is it in the first year? Is it in the second? No. You need to make a profit and income. You need to pay your mortgage and put the food on the table as soon as possible. That's the number one thing. And we got this out of the research from the MBA students, and it was something that fitted with my values as well. Because if you created your own business from scratch off a blank piece of paper, you wouldn't think about the fact that it cost you however many thousands of pounds as you went across the months. You'd be thinking, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to put the food on the table? How am I going to pay for my Diddy dance classes? You know, it's all of those things, isn't it? The return on the investment comes at the exit. So when you decide to move on from your business, you have something that is worth more than you invested in the beginning. That's the key. That's the bit that each franchisee needs to understand. You're growing something that's going to give you a balloon payment, if you like, at the end when you decide that you've done your time and you want to move on. So that is about the extent of it in terms of conversation, and we do revisit it now and again. Just to make sure that everybody, don't give up now, because this is going to be for you in a couple of years' time if you want to or not. And then what was the other part of the question? How do we embrace people who want to exit?
I think, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you answered the first part beautifully.
That is really, really straightforward. Well, I'm going to start talking to them about a year before the franchise agreement is coming to an end and saying, how are you feeling? What do you want to happen? Whatever their decision is, it's the right decision. Okay, it's not my decision. It doesn't matter. I have no control over that, and I don't want control over it. It really is down to them, and then I support them whichever way they want to go. It's absolutely fine. Do you know what? It all works out.
It does. I use that expression. It does. At the end. No, I really like what you said there, and I think it's a great way to support people and to focus on those important things like the actual income when you're starting running a business and getting the stuff that comes into your bank account. It is more important perhaps than that return on investment, and so little people focus on perhaps something that's so much more important. And of course, there's there's the stuff that isn't money and isn't quantifiable in that way. That, you know, you've turned your life around. You're doing something that you want to do. You've got that work-life balance back. You're spending more time with your family. You're feeling more confident. Those things have value too, you know.
And you're a role model for your kids.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Well, look, we have now come to the end of chapter 2. I really wanted to thank you for sharing that history and all of your brand story, and to find out what's under the hat of your brand. That's my catchphrase now.
Hey, Harvey, under the hat.
But thank you so much for doing that. Well, in case you have just joined us, we have been talking to the wonderful Samantha Acton from Domestic Angels. If you'd like to scan the QR code on the screen now, you'll be able to have a look at that entire episode at your leisure. And we have dealt with the present, and we've gone back to the past. I'm going to grab my car. We're now going back to the future. So we'd like to finish with chapter 3, which is all about what's going to happen in the future and some exciting things that are going on in the coming months and years. So perhaps you'd like to share a few of those with us.
Absolutely, I will, and I shall be referring to Anne-Marie, who's asked about MP Heroes today, which is part of my now and my future. So for the future for Domestic Angels, it's expansive. We will be checking in, obviously, on our foundations, but it's expansive. We'll be empowering more women to run their own businesses and to become angels, and to have the time and life and money that they require in their lives as customers, angels, and franchisees. So that is what we're doing at the moment. It's about expansion. And running alongside that and underpinning it and embracing all the values is the work that I do to give women a voice in business, connected with the MP Heroes initiative, which was based out of the House of Lords, and where I help women to use their voices to make a difference in society and to step up and share what they've got to say and get involved. So today we had 60 female business leaders in a room with some very important people involved, and they had to contribute to ESG and tech questions, the answers of which are all going forward into a white paper that will start to progress through the Houses of Parliament in the next couple of weeks and through the rest of the year, to influence politicians as to what women need to be more successful in business, to be able to do business, to be able to grow business. So this is something that fits with my values and is really important to me, and has become very important to the whole of Domestic Angels. Now, not everybody wants to come along and do it. I totally appreciate it, but they all do value that work. And what you see today is that these women who are involved, they're no longer just business owners, and they are not just business leaders. They are business leaders who are using the platform that business leadership gives them to have a voice and make a difference for themselves today, for their future selves, probably for the next generation. So that is a really big part of me and what's coming in the future. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. We are really now starting to draw towards a conclusion. I just wanted to share with you that the fact that if you now scan the lovely, beautiful QR code that's at the bottom, point at the bottom now. That's it. That will take you to Sam's website, and you can find out lots more about Domestic Angels and get in touch that way. Before I sort of round up and say who we might have next week and all of these sorts of things, have you got any final thoughts or any other messages you'd like to share as we... Oh, look, someone scanned it. All good, isn't it? Exciting.
It was probably Anne-Marie. It's making me feel good. Thank you.
But yes, have you got anything else you'd like to add as we finish today?
I would really encourage anybody who's a franchisor, anybody who's a franchisee, or anybody who's looking to get into business to understand that business is creative and it is a lot of fun. Roll your sleeves up, get involved, make a difference in the world, and create something for the better good.
Perfect end. Thank you so much. Look, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who has been here today. The audience always make these lives a really special thing. And I'd like to thank you all for your time. I'd also like to thank you, Sam. It's been a pleasure to hear your story. You talk so passionately about your business. It really shines through. So I hope people get to see this and understand your brand story a little bit better. So I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Couple of things. Next Tuesday, 30th of April, 5:15, on our sister show, the Franchise Show, I will be interviewing the legend that is John Hewitt. He has introduced over 5,000 franchisees into his businesses over his 54-year career. So it's going to be a fascinating conversation with John. I hope you can join us. That's Tuesday, 5:15 GMT. And next Thursday on Franchising Brand Stories, we will hear what's under the hat of a easy brand. I think I've given you probably enough clues there, but until then, my friends, take it easy. And we will see you next